we're going to set up a variation on Supta Padangusthasana. That's the hand to big toe pose. That not just gives you that access to a back of the leg hamstring stretch, so good, but then also will deliver to you an ability to assess how much the other hip flexors, psoas included, tend to grip and grab while we're using this pose. So the setup has a few props. Of course, you'll want to strap around. You're going to be at a wall and have a block at the wall for the foot that's going to be standing on the wall. And I use that just because I've got that baseboard on it. I like the even and regular surface. And then you'll also want a blanket for your head. Then lastly, you'll want an additional blanket here for the leg that's on the floor. And let me show you how I end up using it. So I'm taking it from its neat edge and I'm giving it maybe just a turn and a half. Not a huge roll. And you can see it ends up being just a few inches thick. And I let the remainder of it point towards the wall. So it'll go down my leg. And before I commit to reclining with this, I'm going to get a general setup. So I'm going to have my foot flat to the block at the wall. And then up here, I want this rolled bit of blanket, I'd say towards the middle thigh. So you can see here, it's just about the middle of my femur. You could go up a little bit, you can go down a little bit, but you just want to try out a few different spots until it feels like when you are reclining, that when that left leg is secured to the wall, that the middle of the back of that left thigh can press down into that blanket. And that feels a little low. Might as well be fussy about it. So up just a little bit. You know, everyone's leg is contoured differently, like different shapes and sizes. So it doesn't really need to be at a prescribed place, but we want the outcome to be that when you're here, you really feel like you can press that down. Now note, it's not at the back of the knee. I'm sticking my toes of my other foot underneath my knee because the action isn't, can I perpetually straighten out that leg at the knee joint and harden these quad muscles in order to get the leg mega straight. Instead, the action is actually like sinking the middle of the thigh down so I open on the front face of my pelvis. And I know those two things can kind of wash over each other. They feel very similar, but we're going for a specific outcome here. So it's not the knee, somewhere in the middle of the thigh. The leg is straight at the knee, but you're not trying to smash the back of the knee to the floor. And then once you have that, you're going to take the ball of the right foot into the strap, upstretch that right leg, roll your shoulders back and down. And here, as you're working with this, don't let the only effect be that you're just squeezing a fist the whole time. See if you can catch the strength of your arms by bringing the tops of your shoulder blades to the floor. Now, everyone's hamstring and hip flexion will work and operate a little bit differently, but I want you to figure out where is the place you can go where the back of the right knee is straight, and you're working to uplift the leg into that position. So where is that boundary for you? And as you sort that out for yourself, as soon as you get to that space where you're like, okay, I can work from here, go back to this left leg and think about compressing that rolled edge of the blanket even flatter from the back of your middle thigh. Now, if you feel like you can't but help direct that to the left knee, what I think the outcome is for a lot of us is that that left heel actually lifts off the floor and slides up the block. So your job here is to keep that block heel connection and the back of the thigh pressing down. You know, I'm pretty satisfied with this. I feel like I want to scooch my whole self in. Oh yeah, by that last half inch that just makes everything so much more secure. That was a worthwhile fidget. We're going to stay with this for a few breaths. Supta Padangusthasana A. You are invested in that straight right leg. You are equally invested in pressing the back of that left thigh right down into the floor, held here with most excellent shoulders. let's add a slight variation to this. Instead of having this right leg point straight back, create a strong external rotation. So while your leg is not tipping over from side to side, it is still in its mostly vertical position, you're going to work here to rotate it outwards. And in that external rotation, can you pull down on the side of that right hip as though you're trying to put your right sitting bone to point at your left inner upper thigh? And while you work with that, again, can you find not just the razzmatazz here on the stretching, working right side, but can you also appreciate the downwards pressure of this left thigh? You are creating some resisted left hip extension, meaning you can't push the thigh down much further. It's already on the floor in blanket. But the hip does not know that, and it perpetually anchors that leg down. All right, so we are in that turned out position of the right leg. I want to add one more little bit to it. Can you from here, groan of discontent and contentment, can you press the heel bone of that right foot up higher so you're creating a degree more of dorsiflexion? All right. And recharge all of that, shoulders to the ground, straight right leg, turn the right leg outwards, and then push the heel bone higher. And all the while, don't get so distracted by the actions and their outcomes on that right leg that you forget that you're pushing the left heel to the block and to the floor, as well as trying to compress that rolled edge of the blanket with the back of that left thigh. So that whatever is going on over here on the flexing right side, lifting up, turning out, it doesn't lift and raise and create tension on that left side of the pelvis. Any more tension that already exists there. All right, let's do side two. So I'm going to lower this leg, pass the block from one foot to the other, and then just shimmy around a little bit and slide this blanket across. I'm just going to go straight across the mat, but I'm willing to experiment to see if the blanket needs to be fluffed back up, if it needs to go higher or lower on this leg. It'll be pretty similar for most of us, but leave some space for the idea. If you have a big twist in the pelvis or a great asymmetry in the low back, you might need a thicker or thinner blanket roll on this side in order for your thigh to make contact. And as I give it a couple of breaths to assess how the propping feels, again, I'm just going to scooch that little bit forward. You can lift your head and visually assess. Before I lift this left leg up and put it into its stretching positions, can I press down with the back of my right thigh? And I'm just going to give that a little extra tuck there. All right, that feels good. So I want to feel that the rolled blanket is very apparent to me. It's not lifting my hip up. It's not making me flex my knee. It's just often, for most of us, filling the gap that would be between the back of the thigh and the floor, which is usually an indication of some amount of hip flexor tension, like they can't let go, or they're battling with the other side, which is truly flexing. And this way we give a little lengthening action along the leg on the floor. All right, friends, so let's go ahead and put the ball of that left foot up on the strap. Up you go. As you take hold and as you grab, you are squeezing, gripping, and grasping with your hands and fingers, but also hold this by the tops of the shoulder blades coming down into the floor. We're looking for that position where the left leg is straight at the back of the knee, and you have lifted the leg up high. Those two ingredients must meet and merge. One does not get to suppress the other. So no bent knee, but knee on the chest, right? And no straight leg down at the floor if it could come any amount higher. All right, with the tops of the shoulder blades to the floor, can you develop that sense of lengthening, of stretching on that left leg, but do so to a degree where you leave some brain space for monitoring, assessing, and enacting on that right leg. So I've got my heel to the block, but it's not sliding up the block. It's pressing right on down, back of the heel on the floor, sole of the heel to the block, and then putting the back of that right hamstring more deeply, more compactly into that rolled edge of the blanket. All right, so we've had the leg up. Let's now turn the leg out. So my tiptoes, my knee pointing out towards the left. And again, I'm not rocking the leg from one side to the other, just rotating it at the hip. And when you do so, can you appreciate that if you tend to hip hike in this pose, oh, you will lengthen out that waist side of the hip down on this one. All right, last little bit of spice. I don't know that that's exactly on camera, but we're going to dorsiflex, which means you're going to tip the foot so that the heel bone is higher. I'm going to take my foot onto camera for a moment. So this is pointing. This is dorsiflexing. And with your leg up in the sky, you are dorsiflexing to beat the band. So the leg is straight, back of the left knee lengthens, opens. You're pushing the foot upwards. The leg is turned out, external rotation, my tiptoes and my kneecap pointing out towards the left side of my space. And then I'm dorsiflexing. I'm angling the top of my foot towards the shin and the heel bone towards the ceiling. And again, that generates plenty of sensation on this left leg. Please and thank you. But I'm going to go back to my right leg and make sure that all of this tension that I'm encountering doesn't begin to buckle my knee, flex my hip, to drag my heel along the floor. Everything is lengthening and reaching out. And again, I know for many of us, our go-to is that right knee, and we're going to work to push the back of the knee down. It's probably not going to be harmful to you, but there's a different action that's not the knee joint. It's actually coming from the deep back belly and the psoas, and some of these hip flexors, which can be so recalcitrant. So as you lengthen the leg along the floor, it's heel to block, heel to floor, and then thigh bone compacting and compressing the rolled edge of the blanket. Oh, some good stuff in there. All right, let's go ahead and take this down. We're going to do one more thing on each side. Same setup. Pass the block, return it over to the left foot. You're going to slide that rolled blanket again towards the left. And I can usually achieve all of that while reclining. You know me. I'm not going to sit up unless I have to. Keeping it level, keeping it rolled to a useful thickness. Shift around until you feel as though you are making the best connection to the wall and its block. And am I able? Got that a little crooked, and I prefer it not to be. And are you able to really push downwards the back of that left thigh deeper into the rolled blanket? So you've been here for a few moments, you've tried it on both sides. You know that you could edit this blanket to come thicker or thinner. I would guess most of us actually would want it thicker, like make it more impactful. We're not lifting the leg off the floor. We're not making the knee bend by doing it. Again, you're actually just filling the natural gap that would be there. That is the byproduct of having tension on the flexors and the psoas. Back to that right foot. All right, that's going overhead. As we do, you're going to have it over the ball of the foot. You're going to straighten out the knee. Adding on, you're going to turn the leg out. So my tippy toes, I know they're just off camera, are pointing to the right side of my space, these shelves with my props. And then I'm dorsiflexing. I'm trying to tip the heel bone higher, front of the foot lower. So that's all a reiteration of side one. This generates sensation aplenty. So go back to this left leg on the floor, sole of the heel to the block, back of the heel to the floor, back of the thigh to the rolled blanket. And then we're going to pass the tails of the strap to the left. Right hand gets a break. And you're going to cross that leg over towards the left by just a couple of inches. This is not a spinal twist. In fact, precede any arising spinal twist with a counteraction of dropping down the right side of the sacrum. Like keep your right sacral iliac joint on the floor. Oh, leg is straight. I lost that one for a second. Leg turns out, heel bone higher, leg has tipped over by just a couple of inches. Oh, plenty in there. Again, enough sensation that I might begin to like sweep up like a tornado, like all this left leg tension as well. So I'm just going to slide back out and press down. How good does that feel? It's a lot of work. For me, there's a lot of nice stuff in there. All right, side 2, pass the block, slide the blanket, sit up and make it neat if otherwise things unroll and become less useful. Assess, feel, and find. I got that foot out there, foot to block, thigh to blanket. Things feel and appear to be even and neat. Left foot into the strap, ball of foot catches the strap. Tops the shoulder blades to the floor, straight, left knee. Turn the left leg out. Dorsiflex the ankle, that is to say, put the heel bone higher, ball of foot lower. New addition, this one's gonna make me groan. You're gonna pass the tails to the right hand and let that left leg cross to the right by some small amount. Again, don't even get close to the spinal twist where the weight of the leg just draws the hip off the floor. Don't even approach. Think here about distinctly pressing your left sacral iliac joint into the floor, but let that leg crisscross as much as you can, comfortably can. I'm going to rephrase that, as much as you can tolerably. Probably won't be comfortable. And are you like me? Like, there's so much sensation going on. The maintenance of merely holding on to this is intensive. So I need to be attendant to this other side. That right leg might feel compelled to kind of buckle and bend and lift, and I'd end up tucking the tailbone. And it relieves me of some of the work on this left leg. That's why it's appealing. But I'm going to reconfirm the sole of my right heel to the block, the back of my right heel to the floor, the back of my right hamstring to the rolled edge of the blanket. Left knee straight, left leg turns out. Oh, left leg has dorsiflexed the ankle and left leg has tipped over by a wee little bit over towards the right. All right, let's unravel and unwind, and we'll come on out from there. I'm going to dismiss my rolled blanket. I'm going to slide out that block for my space and move the strap out to my side. I'm not in contact with the wall, and that's well and good, but I'm just going to let my legs drop in towards the floor and appreciate the sensation on not just that hamstring stretch and the outer thigh stretch, always so good, but the sensation of having actually lengthened and released across the front face of my pelvis instead of having that feeling of like fighting the stretch on the opposite leg. All right, so that's a variation on Supta Padangusthasana that addresses the inbuilt tension that a lot of us have on those hip flexors. Hope it felt good for you.